Hey guys, Shane here, Pocket Knife Review. This is going to be the last segment of my series on how to pick the right knife for you. This is probably going to be the most controversial segment. It's probably the broadest segment as far as how you decide what knife to buy. And that is, what do you want to spend? I can make that really easy, just give you some examples of knives in the the 20, 30, 40, 50, 500, 600, 700,000, 12, $1,500 range. But there's a lot more that goes into it than that, guys, because you're making a decision on spending your money. The very first piece of advice I want to give you is don't make that decision based on some douchebag YouTube content creator. We're all full of shit. We've all got our opinions. We all have certain knives that we love and knives that we don't. We're gonna base our opinions on that, and it's kind of shitty, that we would make a video and tell you to buy this knife because it's what we think. When you're spending your money, it needs to be on what you want, what you need, and what you're comfortable spending. There's one element that goes into selecting a knife that a lot of guys really don't care about. I don't know how many times I've read the comment, I just want cool knives, I don't care where they're made. You guys know for me that one of the big deciding factors is where it's made. I made a decision several months ago that I wasn't sending any more of my money to the CCP. I wasn't supporting the things that country does. I've heard it all, man. I've heard, well, you're hurting the people that work in those plants, and they're not the ones that. I understand that. I don't care. I just don't, because you people who say that don't care about the guys who used to work in machine shops that no longer do, that no longer have jobs because they've all been sent to China. So anyway, when you're talking about what you want to spend on a knife and what you want to use it for, I guess the first thing you've got to look at is what your budget is, what you're comfortable spending, what you can afford. Because, we use this term budget knife all the time. And to be honest with you guys, it's kind of a bullshit term because everybody's budget is different. You can't call it a budget knife because even, I keep watching that and you see these guys do these top 10 budget knives. And I remember when those started at $40 and now most of them are up to 75 and 80. I know some of that's got to do with inflation, but really what it's got to do with is the hype around, the Chinese knife market, and so we're adjusting what we call budget to adjust the amount of profit that they want to receive off of a knife. Guys, you can buy a $12 gas station knife, and it may very well be all you need. The honest truth is, even most of us guys that have, that have nice knives, that have custom knives, that have high-end production knives, guys, this is probably my favorite knife in my collection right now. There's two or three that are running right up there with it. But my point is, I really don't need an M4 blade. I don't need a $200 knife. I don't cut enough anymore that I have to have something like this, or that I need something like this. I have this because I enjoy it. I have this because it was made in America, and it gives me pride to own it. Is this within my budget? It is not. Not anymore. It used to be. I acquired it at a time in my life when I absolutely could not afford it. However, I made sacrifices, and I didn't pay cash for this knife. I did a lot of trading around to end up with this, and I'm super happy that I did. And this may very well be the knife for you. A $200 knife with a $50 upgraded scales. That may be a drop in the hat to you. That may be a budget knife for you. That's hard to imagine for some folks, but when you get up into knives that can get into the the $600 range, and this isn't one of them, but Medford very well does sell some knives to get well over $1,000. That is a reality in some people's budgets, and that's great for them. I don't harbor any hard feelings towards people who can afford things like that. And they made decisions in their life, about what they were going to do for a living, what they were going to spend their money on. So be it. One thing I did want to talk about, though, I was actually going to mention in this video that if you were, if you're one of those people, like a lot of us, most of us probably, that can't afford an expensive knife, and you're having to look at budget options. I just want you to know this, guys. You're not stuck buying a Chinese knife. There are companies out there like Ontario Knife Company. They're an American company. They have knives made all over the place. They choose to have a lot of their knives made in Taiwan so they can keep the price down. Guys, there is absolutely nothing wrong with buying an Ontario Rat 1. It was made in Taiwan. That's a democratic country. They're a friendly country to us. We're trying to help keep them a democratic country, trying to help keep them from China overtaking them and pushing their laws and beliefs onto those people. It doesn't take a whole lot of research to find out that you don't have to buy a knife from China. You don't have to be super patriotic to even make that decision. There are some great knives out there that are made in countries other than China and other than the United States that you can choose to buy from. There are plenty of knife companies and plenty of knives made in the United States that you can pick from. And I know what a lot of you think, man, I can afford that. That's just out of my price range. Because that's, as well as I do, that's not true, man. Unless you're one of those people who haven't been to a drive-through in the past 6 months, or you haven't bought a pack of cigarettes or a can of dip or a half case of beer or wasted your money on anything, you can afford an American-made knife. So the price is relative, budget is relative. There are plenty of options out there for you to pick from. I just don't want to see, you make a decision based on something some YouTube guy told you, man, these knives are great, these knives are awesome, you should buy one, when they're receiving those knives at no cost just to be able to make content and promote those knife companies. And guys, no matter how you slice it, if they're making content that they're making money off of, they're being paid by Chinese knife companies. That's just the way it is. You can try to defend that all you want, but it's just the God's honest truth. That's for $60, man, you can save $60 and buy you a buck 110, and this knife will probably last you the rest of your life. It'll do every single job that this knife will do. It will do every single job that this Chinese-made knife will do. And they're the same money. Does this knife have better action and slightly better materials? Possibly. I mean, that's arguable. The blade steels are pretty close when it comes to performance, but you don't have to sell yourself, man. Just if you want to aspire to own, nicer, more expensive American-made knives, guys, you can buy that OKC Rat 1. I do recommend the Alsate because it is a hugely popular lie that the D2 has better edge retention. It's been tested many times. It does not. All you need is the Alsate and a cheap $30 Lansky Arkansas stone sharpening system. You can keep that knife sharp and do everything that I can do with any of these knives that I own. That's just the God's honest truth. There's no reason to have to spend a couple $100 on a knife. But if you want, a knife like this, $500, $600, you can have it. You have to make decisions that make that possible within your life, within your budget. It just may take you a while. I want to show you something right quick, guys. And a lot of you already know, you've heard me talking about on the lives, that I will own a Medford. It's going to be a little while because I don't have a huge amount of income anymore. I'm probably going to have to sell a couple of knives, put that money back. But this is how I do it. As right now, I've got enough money in here that I could buy Civivi, whatever. I know it's going to take me filling this thing up a couple of times to be able to afford that Medford. And I don't have a problem with that. I'll wait. Every day I come home, I empty my pockets. I dump my change in this Lancelot leather EDC tray. When I bought it from Joe, I did intend to keep my EDC stuff in it. But when I started dumping my change in it, I was well aware that it was going to end up scratching my knife. So now I just use it to hold my change. Guys, anything is possible. The one thing I would try to tell you to stay away from, it's just a really poor idea. If you can't afford to pay for a knife, if that price tag is already too big for you, then using these programs such as Sezzle and things like that allow you to finance a knife, it's a horrible idea, guys. And let me tell you why. One is because you couldn't afford the knife to begin with. If you didn't have the discipline to put the money back to pay for it, you probably don't have the discipline to adjust your budget to pay those 4 payments. And I'm not saying that everybody does it, but if you're already in that situation, you probably don't. And I say that because that's why I don't do it, because I don't. And another thing with that is that when you get into the knife collecting realm, and you start trying to acquire, multiple knives and or the next big hyped thing, you're probably going to have already lost interest in that knife before you get it paid for. Guys, we're all about, that next mail call, what's coming next. The last thing I want to do is have a knife that the honeymoon period is already over with and I'm still paying for it. That's kind of a bad idea, guys. I would stray away from that unless you're just extremely responsible, and if you were extremely responsible to begin with, you probably could have just bought the knife, but guys, there are options out there. You can't afford a ProTech, and you want an automatic, man, there's, Kershaw makes some pretty good, Alta-Sight autos for less than half the money. This does open up a whole nother can of worms, and I kind of want to challenge you guys to keep it nice, but hit me up in the comments, tell me what you think about this situation. Would you rather buy a knife from an American company owner who's making himself wealthy by having all of his products made in China, shipped back here because the cost is so much lower because of the slave labor and because of the lack of regulations, and that guy's getting rich, yet you're buying your knives from an American company? In the case of Kershaw, Kershaw is a Chinese-owned company. Kai USA is a Chinese company. They do have a plant here. They do make some of their knives here. They are made by blue-collar American workers. They have apparently invested some money into leasing or buying buildings and machinery and hiring Americans to make their knives. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet, about which is the lesser of two evils. I'm a blue-collar guy, so I tend to lean more towards the fact that they're at least supporting some blue-collar workers and some American families. Still a little hazy on my decision about that, but let me know what you think. Would you rather have an American company owner that's getting rich off of immoral labor practices in China having his stuff made, or would you rather a Chinese company be getting rich off of American workers being able to put food in their families' mouths? I don't know, man. It's a weird subject, but like I said, guys, I just wanted to do this last piece and talk about prices and budgets and how to decide what's the right price for you. Guys, that really depends on what you do, how much money you make, how often you're going to use your knife, because in reality, the majority of us don't use them that often. I mentioned that earlier in my series. My brother uses a knife as much as any human being I know, and this is the kind of thing he carries. I can't get him to switch to a modern traditional knife. That's his thing, and I respect that. But take those things into consideration before you even think about blade materials and steels, and I didn't even cover handle materials, but deployment options and locking mechanisms, all that stuff. The first thing you need to think about is what's going to be right for you. How much are you going to have to use it? How much are you going to have to depend on it? And that'll give you a good starting point on deciding what you need to spend on it, because you know, I don't need this knife. I don't need a knife with S90V. I don't need this edge retention in my life anymore, but I enjoy it, so I own it. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that it's a need, because it's not. You know, we've gone way past what we need in this knife collecting journey of ours, and gone into wants. You know, I just don't want you to think that you have to buy, you know, the latest craze Chinese knife because some guy on YouTube told you it was great and told you it's what you should have. And, you know, no, they're not all the greatest quality. You know, there are some out there that are excellent, and to be honest with you, I don't give a shit. I don't care how good it is. I'm just gonna have to live without it. You guys have heard me say before that, you know, after handling a Vero Axon, I really wanted one. I was just in love with that knife. I was in love with the way it made me feel. However, my convictions are going to keep me from owning that knife, and I'm okay with that. I have plenty of knives. I have plenty of knives that make me feel good, that inspire some type of emotion when I'm carrying it. I don't need it. So, sorry that this video ran on so long, guys, and I'm not trying to stir a bunch of controversy, but I am very curious as what you guys' take on the whole American-owned, Chinese-made versus Chinese-owned, American-made situation is. So let me know. Try to keep it nice, guys. Let's. You know, there's no need for hate in the comments. There's no need for us to get into arguments. We all get along way too well for that. But that's all I've got for you today. You know, just be wise in your purchasing decisions. Follow your heart. Know your facts. You know, don't take a YouTuber's word for it, man. We don't know what the hell we're talking about. We're giving you our opinion. So that's all I've got for you today. I appreciate any minute of time you guys spend with me. Peace. Love y'all.